Welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is entitled "Why Working at the..." No, that's not gonna be the title. I'm gonna start with another title. The reason that... No, I'm gonna do another title. What? No, that's not right either. How about this? What working at an Outback Steakhouse for 8 years taught me about entrepreneurship. I think that's the one. All right, that's the title. Welcome to the podcast. I am Taylor Jackson, as you know. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the things that I learned working at an Outback Steakhouse in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Funny story with what happened to the Outback up here. So I've noticed this a few times Canada's kind of a test market, and it's either the initial test market for things or it is a test market kind of at the tail end of growth once a company has kind of met that middle ground where they're like, oh, we should start diversifying into different places. And then they choose Canada as one of the places to go. And usually they're here for 2 years and then they leave. Outback stuck around for 8 years. Target stuck around for, I think, 2 years. And essentially what happens is that the locations are still profitable, but they pull the plug because those resources, if allocated in other areas, could be, more useful and generate actually more income. This actually happened to the flight. So we have a small airport here that has literally one flight a day from Kitchener to Calgary, and that's it. So you can also fly downtown Toronto if you don't want to drive through traffic. But there is one flight a day and it flies from Kitchener to Calgary, and it's very, very funny. It's a 4-hour flight. It's super helpful if you want to go to Calgary, but not super helpful if you want to get anywhere else in the world that's not Calgary. But maybe 2 or 3 years ago, American Airlines used to fly this beautiful flight from here to Chicago at 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. And it's maybe a 50-minute flight from here to Chicago, or it's an 8-hour drive. So the flight is a way better situation. You fly to Chicago. If you're on the 6 a.m. flight, you land. And then at around 10 a.m. Chicago time, a flight pretty much goes out to anywhere in the world. So you can connect to anywhere in the world and be there pretty much as more efficiently than if I was to drive to the Toronto airport. But because that flight it was still profitable, but it was not as profitable as that plane could have been if placed somewhere else. They pulled that flight and removed their name from our community, which is super disappointing. So I've always kind of vowed that if I am ever in a business and I'm doing something that's positive and it's profitable, or at least even breaking even, to leave that in place and to keep running forward as long as it's not a huge strain or actually doing something negative to the rest of the business. Because I know that by doing good things to small little areas around the world or around your community, that hopefully you will cultivate good relationships and more brand interest and more positive associations with your name, rather than the negative association of creating this beautiful thing and then just pulling it out from everyone that actually depends on it and relies on it and thought that it was a great idea. So we've kind of tangented a little way. Tangent. That's not a word, Taylor. Away from the Outback Steakhouse right now. But so Outback Steakhouse, when I was, I'm going to say 15, I actually got a job there as a busser. And then I started working online a little bit. And then eventually I was a server and then a manager, and pretty much filled every role within that Outback Steakhouse here in Kitchener. And I think that's it's a really cool, 360 outlook to be able to have done, for the most part, every role with the exception of actually owning the place within a very short period of time. And it gives you a full perspective of what it's like to actually run a business. And beyond that, it actually gave me a great perspective of how I did not want to ever own a franchise because of I pretty much the reason that I like doing photography and that I like running my own photography business and being in control of my own show is that if I decide tomorrow that I want to run a Facebook ad, or I want to do this marketing campaign, or I want to do really anything, that I'm actually able to do that in my photography business. And I think that's one of the coolest and most overlooked things, that if you're out there working a marketing job, I worked at a marketing, within a department for a good period of time as well, part-time. And the thing that annoyed me the most about working there was that everybody seemed it was almost like an anti-marketing department at times, where everyone would be battling off of each other to make sure that their idea was the most superior of all the ideas, and that would get pushed through, and that would make them look good, and that would get them a raise, and that would keep them around in the company, and that would get them to like do more cool things. And then it turned out that a lot of those people got let go in like 2008, 2009. So I think maybe like the even bigger thing that hopefully you can take from this episode is that if you are on your way to building a photography business, or building your own business really in any realm of anything that you can be in complete control of, that is so much of a better situation than working for somebody else, because maybe it's a struggle. Maybe for a couple months you can barely pay your rent, working your photography job and working for your own business. But when that starts to accelerate, and that growth does compound over time, and it will get faster and faster, I guess, as far as like actual sales go. And once that happens, you are now in control of your destiny, that nobody can fire you from your job anymore, unless I guess if you take a few like contracts that comprise most of your photography income. Maybe that's a thing to look out for. But for the most part, if you are in control of your own life in photography, you're able to actually watch out for yourself, and you will not be randomly affected by a firing, or when the economy goes down, or something happens that is completely out of your control. If you are in control of your own show, I feel like that is very good, relaxing energy, and stress levels come down and anxiety levels come down. Hopefully you feel that way. So if you're on your way, know that the end result is 100% worth it. So keep living on. I would almost say the great thing that I learned going through college and trying to become a photographer in college was that I could live on pretty much nothing. So I had no real responsibilities, no real bills. So that's when I focused all of my time and energy in making sure that photography could pay for at least that low level base living. And then as I realized that maybe I actually do need to buy a car that's not like a $1,500 Ford Taurus that was built in like 1993. At that point, you're able to kind of scale up and move your life up, I guess, in regards to your business. Another thing to watch out for is like in the early stages, I've seen a lot of people go really deep into just like buying all kinds of gear that they don't need. And as photographers, like I'm sure you're aware of it. Even I feel like we're all aware of it. I feel like just none of us really abide by it. But by going to like the camera store and just like buying stuff, it never makes us a better photographer. All it does is kind of fill this immediate void for like this, I don't know, like appreciation or just like something to get you excited, to stimulate you. And it never really has that big of an impact on your photography career. I have found this a couple of times. So I've purchased like the first 85 millimeter lens that I bought. That really did take my photography game from like I'm an okay photographer to like, wow, I'm actually pretty good. So I think ever since that point, I've kind of been chasing that feeling that I got from that lens. And unfortunately, I think that only happens one time in your photography career, that you get that 85 or you get that 70-200 and you're like, wow, like the quality jump from what I used to be shooting from like a kit lens or a 35 on a crop body to be shooting that is a really significant quality increase. But I don't think that you can keep getting that over and over and over again, unfortunately. So sorry to spoil it for anyone. So circling back to Outback Steakhouse, I'm going to specifically take this from the serving job that I had there. So as a server, your outlook, or at least the outlook that you're maybe not officially taught, but that you kind of learn, is that you should walk into work every single day and you look at the restaurant, your section, and that section you're renting from the restaurant. So whatever happens within your section, you're like 3 tables or 5 tables, whatever you get that day is your little micro business within this larger business. And it can be incredibly profitable. I guess like to the things that I've learned and the problems that I had to overcome was one, I think the biggest thing that Outback taught me about being an entrepreneur in any way was specifically about the randomness of money, and to become very comfortable with the fact that if you go into work that you can easily make like $500 cash in a night if it's like the busiest Saturday ever, but you're going to make that like once a year. And the other days you're going to go and maybe you're going to make $100, maybe you're going to make 60, maybe you're going to make like 220. You just can never really budget anything based on the short-term like the cost outlook, I guess. So that if you go in and you are like, okay, I need to make $300 tonight, there is a pretty good chance that you're never going to make that $300. But if you average that out over a long period of time, you can kind of start to figure out like, okay, so like weekly, if I work 5 shifts, this is the amount of money that I make. And you can start to create a budget based on that. As a photographer, I find that so much of my income comes in usually within specific months. So October's been like crazy incredible for some reason this year, but it's never been that great before. I've always had really great January, Februaries, and this January, February was not that good. So you have to emotionally start to figure out yourself and deal with those very short like spikes and losses, and know that like there is a good chance that for the next 3 months, I'm not really going to make as good of money as I've been making now. So like in the circumstance of Outback Steakhouse, like leading up to Christmas, like Christmas season here, North America, is like the most money you will probably ever make as a server. And then usually New Year's Eve hits and you will not make money until March, April, May. So you have very much a lull in your finances there, and you can start to predict that. And you know that like, while you are making a lot of money in December, maybe it's time to actually start saving and not just blow it all. So that is the number one thing that I learned working at an Outback Steakhouse for as long as I did. Beyond that, really the idea of just like going in, having your own section and having that section be your micro business, and also the randomness of everything that goes into that, the hostess could not seat you for like the first couple tables, or the hostess could seat you like a table, like one adult with 8 kids. And all of these things are going to affect your income in different ways. And to be able to just kind of process that and to emotionally just kind of level yourself and not worry too much and not stress too much and not get upset at anyone, I think is another very important lesson. That if somebody's contacting you for wedding photography, here's actually a funny story. This happened to a dude named Brian Lamoyo, who lives in my city. Essentially what happened was somebody emailed him and was like, hey Brian, like we're looking at getting married. We love your work. We love your style. We love everything about you. We love that you, he's an awesome dude. And so he was basically like, for sure, like 100% going to book these people. They just didn't have a wedding date yet. And he was like, okay, like here are a few venues to check out. They're my favorite. So that couple went out into the world and they found one of those venues. And it turns out that that venue was a little bit more expensive than they wanted. So by them actually booking that venue, they emailed him and were like, by the way, like we can't afford you anymore because we booked one of the venues that you recommended. And well, that is like, it's such a remarkable story. I've never really heard of that happening before. Maybe it's happened, but it's never been verbalized to me. But by like, you can't be angry about that. The fact that you gave them like this list of amazing places to go and they went there, and now because of your recommendation, they can't afford you anymore. If you get upset and you like stress yourself out about that and you like retool your entire business to like make sure that never happens again, you're just going to stress yourself out and you're going to make way too many rules and way too many incorrect decisions for the long term of your business based on that short-term decision and the randomness of that short-term decision. So don't be stressed out by the randomness of being an entrepreneur. Learn to embrace it, learn to enjoy it, and learn to have some fun with it when possible. And then other than that, the things I learned at Outback Steakhouse is that the blooming onion is super terrible for you, but also super delicious. So that's the wrap up of that. Thanks for listening today. I'm Taylor Jackson. I will see you again tomorrow. If you are a Patreon member, again, giving out that Canon M50. So maybe get on that Canon M50 train if you want a forward-facing screened camera that's actually really good to take on your travels somewhere in the world. It's wicked awesome. Also, I'm not sponsored by GoPro or anything, but I have been using the GoPro 7 so much lately, and that hyper smooth stabilization in it is like, it's so good. So if you're looking for like an all-in-one travel cam that's like super small and also kind of inexpensive in the terms of like what you would be spending on a DSLR or anything like that, by all means look at that GoPro 7. I unofficially endorse it because it's awesome. I will see you tomorrow. That was like the most concisely I've ever ended an episode. I'm proud of myself. I'll never be able to do that again. See you tomorrow.